Hey, this is Mike Lindsay from Vinyl MX. We're out here at Glen Helen Raceway today with the 2024 KTM 450 SXF Factory Edition. Sadly, we're not riding it. The track literally has a lake in the center of it. Southern California, El Nino, whatever it is. We have Ryan Sarancha here, who is KTM North America Product Manager, to go over the bike with us. There may be some subtle looking differences, but there's also a couple big ones we'll get into. Starting first off with the frame itself, that's been the biggest thing we've noticed with the race team and really what the changes is, because that has to homologate what the race team is using. We have a new frame. Biggest visual difference is the shock tower basically has a window or a cutout in it now. Can you explain that to us, what it does and where else you guys have actually changed this frame that we may not notice?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, we launched this bike as new generation in 22, so that was new frame, subframe, swing arm, bodywork engines, everything from the ground up. And what this really is just some fine tuning of that. So we have a new shock tower that we launched on the 22 factory edition, which separated out from the backbone. And that was a forged steel piece. It's a big shock tower. Yeah. So what we ended up doing was cutting away, just like you said. We dropped some weight out of that forged piece. We also took some of the gusseting out from the neck, and we used thinner tubes on the frame as well. So that dropped the weight of the frame by about 300 grams. And then it also added a little bit more flex into the frame. So we wanted to get just that much more comfort. That's why we separated the shock tower from the backbone, to add some more comfort, and this is just a little bit more.
Yeah. What, when we talk about flex, like where is the flex? What were percentage goals, things like that, torsional, longitude, like where, if I had to write down for the techie side, what is it?
Yeah, so your torsional flex is that twist you feel while you're turning. Longitudinal flex is front to back. Most of the differences that you're going to see here, this is going to be torsional flex, really going to help you with cornering. But there is also some comfort that you're going to notice while you're going, straight rhythm sections and that. So that's your longitudinal flex. So a little bit of both, but mostly on the cornering from the torsional flex.
So with that, suspension changes come almost every year with factory editions. It sounds like fork change has been fairly minor. It's just a slight update to the direction it's been. But shock had to be changed quite a bit because of not only the shock tower, but you guys also changed the linkage, the bell crank, and the bolts. The linkage ratio is still the same, but the material thickness has changed and the bolt sizes have all changed.
Yeah, so the bolt size has been shrunk down a little bit, so a little bit more bearing, and that's reduced some friction out of the linkage. Actually, it's interesting, we were able to add more damping to the rear shock while still getting more comfort out of the rear because of that reduced.
Yeah, I think Mo was saying it felt, the changes were big enough that it felt softer, that even though you guys have gone stiffer on the valving, it overall feels softer and plusher and more comfortable.
Yeah, so you can add a little bit more hold up and get that comfort. That's fantastic.
Other than that, typical factory edition goodies, wheel sets, a Kropovich slip-on, power parts clamps, all those good things. Other than that, engine's really the same, but there is a lot to talk about the power. We're gonna grab the guys from LitPro here in a second, but real quick, what is the implementation here for data? There is this little module here on the front fender. It's linked into the bike. Personally, we've had a lot of experience with LitPro, but you guys in KTM have basically worked with them to build it into the motorcycle?
Exactly. So you can see the hardware here. You mentioned all the technical accessories that are on the bike. One of the coolest things is the connectivity unit off-road that we've made standard on this. So you've got the unit here and at the very front of the fender, so on that fender that takes that GPS antenna. So that's the hardware we put on, and basically it lets you go into the app, which is free to download on iOS or Apple, and you can change your engine parameters. You can actually get your suspension set up through the suspension assistant. Tells you exactly how to set everything up. So the goal there was really to add a lot of customization into the bike to make the rider comfortable and confident on it, so you can go faster, right? With confidence comes speed.
So two pricing questions. One, what is the complete new factory edition here? What does it retail for? And then second one, because we were talking about, I know it's a big item for you guys, that connectivity unit, yeah, you get it on this bike if you go buy it, but anybody that's got a 23 or 24 KTM motocross or cross-country model can also go buy that unit and retrofit it to their bike, or upcoming production units when we get to 25 stuff you'll be able to buy as a separate item. So what do they each cost?
So the motorcycle is $12,449. Be in dealerships, should be now. And then if you were going to buy this as a technical accessory from our Power Parts catalog, it is $249, and that gets you the unit here on the fork. You also get the front fender, which houses the GPS unit. And then if you were going to use the rider feature, that is an annual subscription fee of $69.99. That's for the rider feature. If you wanted to use the engine or the suspension settings, all that, that is free. And then the rider feature also, you get a 1 month free trial when you set it up.
Just to clarify, make sure I didn't mess up. So If you buy the factory edition, the 24, it comes with the connectivity unit as one of its features. It comes with 1 month of the LitPro rider data features of the app, but we'll get into the app in a minute. But all the features for engine braking, engine tuning, suspension tips, all that is free. And then the 249 is if you have a different KTM that is non-factory edition, 23, 24, or upcoming bikes, you can buy these units separately. And then it has all those engine features in it. And again, the rider, like lap times and some of those data things are part of the subscription model that LitPro offers. Again, probably the biggest feature with the factory edition is the ride connectivity unit that they have on this motorcycle. Again, that is LitPro based technology. We have the antenna here on the front fender. You have the unit here on the fork that basically runs the whole system. So this comes on this bike standard. There is now an app that KTM has out there. You can get into it and you can basically add this bike to your garage, or again, you can add this accessory to a 23 or 24 model. Once you add it to the garage, there is some really cool adjustments in there. A little bit similar to what we've seen from Yamaha and Kawasaki, but different. I think they've really gone for simplicity with this. So once you open up that garage setting, get into the bike, you have your rider options, which has some data on track, but then there is actually a bike selection. Hit that, and you have real basics. You can basically change your map selection switch here. You can go into the base or the second map, and you can change it for mud, sand, gravel, wet, aggressive. There's a couple little base options there, and it shows you on a graph what it'll do to the power. These are very simple. Okay, I'm in the wet, but I like it aggressive. I'm in the wet, I want it smoother. I'm in the sand, but I want it more aggressive. You can kind of have these little presets, and it'll give you a couple different power levels to try, and you can assign them to either map switch. Now what's cool is you can hit the advanced menu, and they've given you just very simple 1 to 5 selections on a few parameters. Again, you can do a lot of this in the Yamaha or the Kawi apps, but you have to know what to do with ignition and fuel plus and minuses on these little RPM segments. So those are a little more in depth. This one kept it very simple. You'll see everything's at baseline for 3. That is your engine braking, that is your throttle response, that is the launch control, the traction control, all that is a baseline 3. If you go to a 1 or a 2, it's like a softer, 4 or 5 is more aggressive. It gives you the examples of what you want to do. So again, it's just a little more intuitive. Hey, I want less engine braking, I'm going to drag it to a 1. I want really aggressive throttle response, let's drag it to a 5. You can combine those differences and set them on different maps. So again, maybe not as in-depth as what we've seen with the Yamaha, but a lot more simple and easy to use for a consumer. On top of that, they also have suspension settings, and it's kind of cool. You can put in your rider weight, you can put in your gear weight, what conditions you're riding in, and it'll spit out a recommendation of what to do with your clicker settings, your air pressure. Now, mind you, that is all around the stock suspension settings. If you have your suspension revalved, what's in that app kind of goes out the window. But for a baseline bike, it tells you what clickers to run, what sag to run. It shows you in the app how to check your sag, how to measure if your spring rate is correct, gives you a lot of those numbers. Just a lot of those little basic information that most people should know, but it puts it in a very digestible way for you to basically set up this bike. And again, factory editions are not cheap. Any modern day 450 isn't. So to go out there and spend $12,500 plus tax, etc., you want to get this bike as good as you can out of the box, and that's what they're trying to do with this app, is give you a few more adjustments and just really try to make it easy to dial in. The last thing we'll talk about is the LitPro features that are in the connectivity unit and in that part of the app. Again, these are things that are normally locked. When you get the bike, they're part of a 1-month free subscription. Beyond that, it is $69.99, but there is a lot to unpack in this section of the app. There is throttle position data you can overlay, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm wide open here. You'll go back and look and go, man, I'm only at 70% throttle here. You can go back and look at how many times you've shifted a lap. You can look at your best laps versus your worst laps, lay them over and go, okay, I was faster, but I'm harder on the throttle in this section, but I'm easier on the throttle here, or I stayed on the throttle longer, or I just rolled through the corner different. I took a different line here. I shifted more this lap. I shifted less than I went faster. You can lay all that over, and that will make you potentially a better rider. It's just, again, more tools, but it's the uniqueness of how they've added this together. LitPro's been around for a while, and you could see your lap time data, where you're accelerating, where you're braking, but you couldn't bring in the bike data. Even race teams have a hard time taking in that throttle data, that gear position data, and bringing it into a digestible format. But by laying it into the overlay from LitPro, it just makes it very easy for anybody to pick up their phone, look at the last 8 laps on track and go, man, why am I fastest on lap 4? Well, I'm on the throttle harder, I shifted more, so I was in the better part of the torque band. It even shows you where you're spending most of your time RPM range, so you can look, okay, my lap that was faster, I was in the mid-range almost all lap. I wasn't revving the crap out of the bike. So again, all those little things just make it in a very digestible format. This is stuff that even race teams Again, they have to have a guy sitting there on a laptop to bring up all this and explain it to a rider in a way that makes sense, but they've put it into this app in a way that makes it very easy for a consumer to digest, make decisions, and go out on the track and be better. That's our overview here of the factory edition KTM 450 SXF and the overview of the new features they have from their connectivity unit. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments section below. Give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and we'll be testing this bike next Monday.